Hello everyone, Christina Werner here. Welcome to day 18 of the holiday card series for 2024. In today's card, I'm using the Sketched Snowmen stamp set from Simon Hurley. I'm also going to be using the coordinating dies that he came out with in coordination with Spellbinders. So I'm first going to stamp all of the snowmen on some watercolor paper. This is Fabriano Artistico extra white watercolor paper. It is cold press, so as I stamp these snowmen in black waterproof ink, I'm choosing to use Versafine black Onyx, they will be a little bit sketchy, even more than the intended sketchiness of the design of the snowman. So I'm going to stamp them multiple times until I get a nice solid line. I'm using a stamp press to help evenly press down onto the door of my MISTI. And then I think I stamped all of these probably 3 or 4 times trying to get a really solid line. But once I had it stamped enough to my liking, then I removed it from my MISTI and I'm going to start watercoloring. I'm going to be using Peerless Watercolors, and I was actually filming this live with the premium members here at my YouTube channel. So I'm going to leave in what I was telling them to describe what Peerless Watercolors is. So here we go. So I have to show everyone, this is what Peerless Watercolors are. They are sheets of dry watercolor on paper, and they have a bunch of different colors. And what I've done is used a square punch to punch out squares of the watercolor, because they do last a long time. And then, like years ago, probably going on 10 years ago, I made my own little palette with all the colors, and I have a piece of acetate in the middle so that I can use that as, you know, for one thing, it protects both of each side, but also I can use it to like pick up color from. And these were some colors that I had used, like all of them. So I cut out some additional little squares to use. But, you know, I should make a new palette. But I like that I've got like the swatch right below it and everything. So I don't think I've used these watercolors in a very long time. I think, looking back, the last time I used them must have been before I moved to my new house back in 2021. So it's been at least 4 years that I have not used these paints. But after using them for this particular snowman card, gosh, why haven't I used them? They're so fun to use. So I started out with a blue shade, just adding it onto the snowmen, the actual snow part of them. And then I came in with a purple shade. And the thing that's you need to remember when you're painting, particularly with Peerless Watercolors, is that it's almost best to just work in layers of color instead of mixing colors together before bringing them to your project. You definitely can, but because you're picking the color up directly and it's on your brush and you're coming to your project, it's just a little bit easier to go directly there versus having to have a separate palette where you're mixing the colors. So I moved on to the snowman noses, which are carrots. I used a gold shade and then added some orange as well. And then I decided to start painting the hats and scarves. And I basically just did like one hat in one color, and then I would do a scarf in that same color, just so I could get a mixture of colors all over the different snowmen. The present being held by this larger snowman, I first painted him green, added a green scarf to this little guy over here, and then added some red for his hat and red on the present. I also added some additional colors on the top of their hats. And then once everything was dry, I came in with that second color on top just to add more interest and layering and shadow. So I added an additional color for each one of these, just trying to get a mixture of shades and add a little more of that dimension to each one of these. Added just a little bit more blue onto that scarf. And then I also added a dark gray over their buttons or the pieces of coal. For these skis, I added some brown just to give it a little bit of color. And then I'm pretty much done with all of these snowmen. So I used my heat tool to dry them. And then I broke out those coordinating dies. I'm going to go ahead and cut out each one of these snowmen just using the dies. So I'm getting them positioned on my die cutting sandwich. I like the magnetic mat that comes with the Griffin Empress machine. So I'm not taping the dies down or anything. I'm just letting the magnetic sheet or magnetic mat do its job and hold them in place. And it worked so well. All of these little snowmen popped out really easily. So there were so many snowmen, I decided to create 2 cards today. I'm taking 3 of them on one card, and then this one little guy, he's not going to be on the cards today. He's going to have to be saved for a different project because I loved the skiing snowman, and there is a greeting that goes well with the skiing, and I thought it'd be so cute to just have him on his own card, a nice little solo scene, and it would look like a downhill, with just the sky behind him. So I grabbed another sheet of watercolor paper. I penciled on a horizon line, tried to match that same angle for how he's skiing. And then I painted on the edge of the horizon with a little bit of a purple shade and then created that cloud edge shape with blue watercolor and just brought that up and blended them sort of there in the middle. I also added a little bit more of that blue watercolor down below and kind of painted things at an angle so that it suggested, different kind of channels and paths left in the snow as he's skiing down the mountain. I thought that would be really, really cute. So I hit that with my heat tool until it was dry. And then I placed him on top to get a good idea if that was the right ending for my scene, and it was. For the second card base, I'm going to do a similar watercolor kind of technique for this, but this is a much more simplified scene. I'm using a very straight horizontal line for the horizon, but this time I painted the blue edge first and then came in with that purple watercolor and brought that up into the blue. So I just kind of did it in an opposite fashion. So once that was dry, I added some blue down below. I'm just adding a shadow for underneath where the snowman will be standing. So I'm adding more of that blue. I just want a suggestion that there's some shadow right beneath them. Add a little more purple on the end of the horizon and then hit that with my heat tool. So I needed to cut down my watercolor scenes so that they could be popped up on the card. These are essentially going to be 1-layer cards. So I thought it'd be nice to have them on some foam tape and then onto a card base. So I used my A7 Layers dies from Waffle Flower, cut those down just a little bit, and then brought them to my MISTI to add the greetings. So this is the greeting for the skiing snowman. I thought it was just too cute to pass up. And it says Season's Greetings instead of Season's Greetings. I thought that was so punny and cute. So I stamped that in that same black ink that I used earlier, the waterproof black ink. In this case, it's Versafine Onyx Black. And then for the group of 3 snowmen, I first placed them on the card inside my MISTI just so I could get the positioning of the greeting. And then I stamped down the Sending Warm Hugs greeting right below. So both of these card designs are very, very simple. The more contrast and greater color comes from the snowmen. Put some strips of wide foam tape on the back of my watercolor backgrounds, and then peeled off that release paper and pressed them down onto some 5x7 card bases. I then put some foam adhesive on the back of my snowmen and I adhered them down. Now I did put the big snowman, this big fluffy one, in the back in the middle, and then I added some foam adhesive on the back of the snowmen that are on either side, and then placed those directly on top. For the very last card with that skiing snowman, I think he's my favorite. Put some foam adhesive on the back of that one as well. I'm using foam squares from scrapbook.com. I'm kind of in love with their foam squares recently. They come in 3 different thicknesses, which is really fun, so you can use them for different purposes. So here are the cards for day 18 of my holiday card series. I hope you enjoyed. Check out this stamp set and dies from Simon Hurley. I'll have them linked down below in the video description. And I'll be back on Friday with day 19 of the holiday card series. I hope you'll come back and check that out. Thanks so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.